Morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about these funding opportunities. I'm Katie Hartman. I'm a faculty member at Iowa State University in the Department of Agricultural Education and Studies in the College of Ag and Life Sciences. I'm also an extension specialist and have joined the North Central IPM Center to work on these diversity, equity, inclusion, and access issues that we have in IPM. So today, as Laura said, this will be a pretty informal question and answer session. We'll go over the 3 RFAs that we've just made available, some of the nuts and bolts of those, some general suggestions and tips. Then I'm going to hand it over to Kelsey, who is all things grant management, to look through the systems a little bit to make sure everybody's familiar with those. And then, I'm happy to take questions. So that's me, but I'd like, Laura and Kelsey to also introduce themselves, as they probably have more of the answers to your questions than I do. So Laura, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, hi, my name is Laura Isles. I'm director of the North Central Integrated Pest Management Center, which, if you're kind of new to integrated pest management, it just basically is kind of a long term to mean managing insects, weeds, plant diseases, anything in schools, homes, gardens, row crops, with just methods to reduce environmental impact, human health impact. Mainly focus on reduced pesticide use overall. But if you've been in the IPM world, there's a lot of definitions of IPM, and you can usually drive a truck through it. So I'm also housed at Iowa State University, and will help Katie with answering any questions.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Kelsey. I work at Iowa State University with the North Central IPM Center as the research administrator. So I will handle the paperwork between Iowa State University giving the money out to the institution that you're at, whether it's the university or a nonprofit or any other institution that you're housed at. I'll be the one helping to handle the paperwork and budget for them.
Thanks. Okay, so with that, I'm going to share. Does that look right to everybody? Yes, okay, great. So right off the bat, I realized I'm hitting you with a bunch of acronyms. I really tried hard to fit as many acronyms into this webinar title as humanly possible. So today, as we've introduced, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our National Integrative Pest Management, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Access request for applications in this Q&A question and answer session. Again, my name is Katie Hartman. Let's get going. So we have 3 brand new RFAs that we're hoping to solicit applications for. I'm going to go in depth into each of these 3, but this is a preview of the 3 that we're going to be talking about. So we have one large DEIA grant, a fellowship program, and then we're also offering mini grants. So let's jump right into these. First, importantly, in the RFAs, we've provided some definitions of how we're thinking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. These came from the USDA, so they should be consistent with hopefully other programs you might have seen, and consistent with what the USDA is asking us to fulfill. And so take a look at these. If you have questions, as I say, these definitions are in all of the RFAs, but these are the general DEIA terms that we're going to be working with for these proposals. So the first RFA is kind of what we're calling the big DEIA grant. This is open to this long list of individuals, which hopefully is pretty inclusive of folks doing IPM work. So private individuals and institutions, faculty, staff at 2- and 4-year universities, businesses, commodity organizations, government, and non-governmental organizations. So pretty inclusive of folks that are hopefully doing this work. Importantly, given the goals and scope of these grants, we are going to give special consideration for applications originating from or including minority serving institutions or organizations. These are particularly encouraged. So these grants, we have $120,000 with awards up to $20,000. Again, this is a national level opportunity. All of these are. And so we are in the North Central region at Iowa State, but we are hoping to be, as equal in our distribution of these awards as possible. So when I say 1 to 2 awards per region, that includes the North Central, the Northeast, the South, and the West regions. And I say, 1 to 2, depending on who applies. But we are really, going to try our best to be as inclusive of national IPM programs as possible. The due date is ongoing through January 31st, 2024, or until the funds are consumed. So we are open as of now and would love to be taking applications as soon as possible so that we can start dispersing these funds and supporting the great programs that you all are working on. Because the end date is no later than September 17th, 2024. So this is quick. We don't love that it's such a short time period, but we are taking advantage of this great opportunity that USDA has given us to distribute these funds. And so we're hitting the ground running. And so hence we're getting this webinar going and really hoping that folks will jump on these opportunities. Applications for this grant will be accepted through the grants management system that Kelsey will help us take a look at after the slides. So the purpose of this grant, importantly, because we are working on IPM issues, that is the first and foremost. So these proposals should be on research or outreach that is IPM specific, but that also prioritizes diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility goals. These are some examples of what those might be, but I think what's really great about these RFAs is that we can be pretty broad in kind of how we're looking at DEIA issues in IPM. So some examples might be that a project would benefit minoritized stakeholders, increase cultural competency of staff, identify gaps in DEIA and ways to improve those, and or a needs assessment for specific communities served. So that is in no way an exhaustive list of potential projects, but those are just some ideas to get us going. The proposal elements include a project narrative. So this is a 6-page maximum narrative that's going to include sections about the problem that you're hoping to solve with your project and a justification for that to show us and the steering committee that will be evaluating these that you're addressing an important problem in IPM and why that needs to be addressed. You'll be asked to describe your project's objectives, the outputs of your project, and some outcomes. And so we'll be asking for a list of short-term, medium-term, and expected long-term outcomes that will result from completing the objectives of your project. Reviewers in the past have commented that they like to see a timeline of expected outputs so that it's clear that the project is well thought out and planned, and it helps to show that you've clearly thought out what your project is going to be and how it's going to address the problem that you've proposed. Here's an example of a potential way that you could visualize objectives, outputs, and outcomes in a table. This is provided in the RFA so that you can see an example. In this example, you can see that there's an objective that's outlined, specific outputs, for example, activities, services, events, or products that you plan to develop through your project, and then indicators of success or outcomes in the short term, medium term, and long term. This is a really easy way to visualize this and to see continuity across the objectives, outputs, and outcomes. And so just an example of one way you might visualize this in a proposal. Again, this example is in the RFA for you to refer back to. In the project narrative, we'll also ask for a measure of impact. If you have applied for grants before, another term that's often used for this is an evaluation plan. So same idea, but we just want to understand the impact, meaning the change in learning, action, or condition that you hope to bring about through your project. If you're an extension type person, that language, a change in learning, action, or condition should sound pretty familiar. And again, if thinking of this as an evaluation plan kind of fits with what you have experience with, that's what we're getting at here. So budget and budget narrative are also important components to proposals. So again, the budget is going to be going through the grant management database. The budget narrative should explain clearly why you're asking for specific amounts of money for what. Reviewers really like to see that if there's money being asked for in a budget, that there's a clear justification for that in the budget narrative. This helps explain where money's going, but again, also just gives reviewers a bigger picture of the scope and goals of the project. Reviewers often closely read this narrative about the budget. And so make sure that the budget matches what is being proposed. So for example, if you're budgeting for a person, maybe graduate student hours or things like that, make sure that that is referenced in the proposal so that reviewers understand, again, the goals and scope of the project that's being proposed. There are other items we're asking for as well, including letters of support. For this RFA, these are required from any collaborators that you're naming as part of your project. And so make sure that the letters from collaborators are listed in your proposal. And so that the reviewers can understand how all the players in a collaboration are going to be fulfilling the goals of the project and addressing the need and the justification. You can refer to appendices in your narrative if you'd like to. It's not required, but make sure that if you do attach appendices that you reference them in the narrative. But feel free to summarize and avoid lengthy appendices. Reviewers often might not read those. And so the more you can explain in the narrative, the better. We'll also ask for a conflict of interest form. This helps us to make sure that the folks reviewing the proposals don't have any conflicts of interest with you, and we can be as fair as possible. So that's important for us to make sure that all proposals are viewed fairly. We'll also ask for CVs or resumes of key personnel that are named in the project. Often reviewers skim the CV. Again, this helps, I think, to understand the goals and the scope of the project, who's going to be working on the project, and to make sure that the expertise needed to be successful are represented within the team. We're asking for an abbreviated CV here, so just 2 pages max. Okay. That's the big grant. And again, if we have questions, please, we'll ask them at the end, but we'll move forward with the next kind of project that we're hoping folks apply for. So we've also budgeted for a fellowship program. This is a little different from the large grant. This is specifically for faculty, staff, and students at a minority serving institution. So for example, 1890 and 1994 land-grant institutions, historically Black colleges and universities, or Hispanic serving institutions. And importantly, the point of this fellowship program is to help folks at those institutions establish connections with fellow IPM practitioners. So there's 8 awards of $6,000 each. Again, we're hoping that we have a good representation across regions nationally, so about 2 per region. Again, applications are ongoing until funds are depleted. So if there's interest, please get these proposals submitted so we can get these projects going. And the period of performance is the same. The end date is no later than September 17th, 2024. In this case, the applications are accepted through our submission form. There's a link to that form in the RFAs, and Kelsey will have more information about that. So again, the goal of this program is really to build support and collaboration between minority serving institutions and IPM professionals while offering a little financial support. So, this is a collaboration building effort because it's so easy for all of us to become siloed in what we do at our own institutions. The goal here is to kind of build longer term sustainable connections and expertise across the discipline to be more inclusive overall as a national IPM effort. So this fellowship program will last a year, and the recipients will attend hopefully monthly meetings with the North Central IPM Center DEIA director, that's me, to establish a bridge with the IPM community. So we'll create a cohort of folks, and based on their interests and project goals, try to connect them with experts around the country that can help further their goals. The elements of this proposal are similar, but not quite as extensive as the larger grant. So we will ask for a project narrative, but in this case, it's just 2 pages. And we're asking that these 4 dimensions be addressed in those quick 2 pages. So pretty basic. Why is this project important to IPM? What are the potential benefits of this project for you, meaning the applicant, your institution, and NIFA's IPM programs? Is there an outreach component? And if so, what is that? What's the potential impact of that? And also, if there's research, how will the results of the research be disseminated? So fairly similar to what you'd expect from any project narrative, but not nearly as extensive. We also are asking for letters of support from any collaborators or supervisors. I think this is particularly important if there's an undergraduate or graduate student that's part of this, to make sure that they have their supervisors or advisors in on this process. Okay, and lastly, our DEIA mini grant program. So the who is the same as the big grant that I talked about first. So the much more inclusive eligibility list of folks doing IPM work. We have $30,000 with awards up to $5,000 each, again with interest in spreading those equitably nationally. Again, just the same, applications are due ongoing until funds are depleted, with the same period of performance. And again, the applications are accepted through our submission form. The purpose of the mini grants is to enable the recipients to make progress towards their IPM and DEIA goals outside of kind of the normal funding cycle of larger programs. So as special issues arise in your IPM/DEIA goals, this is a good opportunity for these mini grants. Again, there's a project narrative, in this case, a 3-page max narrative that's going to include an abstract of the project with a clear summary, again, objectives and timeline, and expected outcomes similar to the larger grants, but again, not as extensive. We'll also ask for a budget narrative with a 2-page limit, and again, CV or resume for all key personnel on the project. So the nuts and bolts of some of this, if funded, just know that the grant information is publicly searchable. Assume that reviewers will only read the PDF, so the narrative and things like that. So try to be explicit and clear. And importantly, the review panel is made up of members of the DEIA steering committee with a range of expertise. So this steering committee has members from all regions, from an 1890, from a 1994. So tried to be pretty inclusive with the members of this group. But given that they're spread out nationally and have different expertise, you know, from each other and from you, it would behoove applicants to be pretty explicit and descriptive of the project, given that people have a range of expertise that will be reading these. The reviewers will score the applications based on the criteria in the RFA. So we do provide a rubric to you in the RFA to be transparent about how these proposals will be judged by the reviewers. And the funding decisions will be shared soon after they are made. So as I said, you know, this period is quick, and we're really excited to get funds out to folks to get the good work underway. So funding decisions will be shared as soon as they're made. We have some recommendations based on past feedback. Again, I always do this to my students too. I jump my slides. So be sure to write your proposal assuming that it will be reviewed by those outside of your area of expertise. So again, just clearly explain what your project goals are, what the problem is that you're addressing, and how you plan to do that. They might not be familiar with all pest, crop, audience, weather, all the nitty gritty of what you all do every day as part of your proposal. Just make sure that you explain all that to reviewers. In general, reviewers trust you to be the experts, and the stakeholder letters of support are really helpful to them to get the large scope of the project. And unlike the title of my Q&A today, try to minimize or eliminate acronyms, again, just for clarity's sake. Some more feedback from the past, from review panels that we've been a part of. If you're reusing materials from another proposal, just make sure that that's not too obvious. Reviewers take that pretty personally. If it's clear that you're reusing materials from another proposal, they really don't like that. Be clear who will benefit from what you propose and when. Again, the goal of these specific RFAs is to address diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility concerns in the IPM community. So being super clear about who will benefit from the work and when along the process of the project folks will benefit is really helpful for the goals of these specific RFAs. And again, something we've heard from reviewers is don't overpromise. The reviewers know that this is a short funding cycle. And so being realistic about what you can offer in that short funding cycle will help them to make a decision. So this is me. Again, I'm Katie Hartman. This is my email address, my office phone number. The ipmcenters.org is where you can find more information about all of these. That QR code there takes you to specific information about these RFAs with links so that you can apply. And then if you have any questions, we have a general email address that will get your questions answered quickly. But you're also able to email me too if you have questions that I can answer. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing and let Kelsey show you the systems.
Okay. All right. Can you see my screen, Katie? Okay. So the part I'm going to take you guys through is the application process between the three RFAs because they are in different systems. The DEIA grant, which is the bigger awards, the 20,000 awards. This goes through the grants management.
It's a little hard to hear you, Kel. Are others having a hard time hearing?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll take my headphones off.
Yeah, you sound better just leaning forward almost.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes I don't know that the headphones pick it up. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the grants management system. If you have applied for an IPM grant through one of the regional centers before, this is the same system. But if you haven't, this will be for the big grants, the DEIA grants that are 20,000 each. So this is linked in the RFA. It's grants.ipmcenters.org. And if you have not been in here before and you need to create an account, there's a button to create one, and it's an easy process. If you do have an account already, I'm going to use my test account so I can go in and show you. You would log in, try again. Log in, and then the RFA for this should be at the top when you go to create one. So you would come into this home screen and then click on Start a New Grant Proposal. And it's going to be slow today, of course. In the national RFAs are at the top, since this is all alphabetical for you. And then the link for the call will take you to the IPM Center's website where the RFAs are listed. But when you come in, you're going to click Begin a New Proposal, and it will open up a new window for you that you can edit all of the things. So the first thing it's flashing at me is to edit my title. So you can put in whatever your title is. We do kind of recommend that if you are planning to apply for the big grant, you can come in and you can make a proposal anytime you want and save it as a draft and then come back and work on it later if you want. I think you can edit the title too. Like as long as it's not submitted, you can come back in and edit things. Whoop, spell it right. And then save your title. So now I have a testing DEIA grant proposal, where Katie was mentioning that we have the budget form in the grants management system. This is what she was talking about. So here, all of these files are links to download the templates. The budget narrative template is definitely an option. If your institution has its own, you don't have to use the narrative template, but the cover and assurances form, I can pull that up for you. This is necessary for Iowa State to give your award to the other institution. So we need to know the kind of the explicit information of who they're going to be contacting to set up your subaward. So that is one of the downloaded forms. The budget form is an Excel form. There are notes in it that if you need to add rows, you can. It's completely, you can edit it however you need to. And then you would just save it as part of your one PDF document when you're done. So all the fields you can fill in, and then just make sure that your budget matches your narrative when you're done. With these grants for the DEIA big grants, there is a maximum of 10% total direct cost on your indirects. That's something you can work with your finance people on. That is a limit set by the USDA NIFA. So we can't do anything about that. It's a 10% limit on indirects. The fellowships and the mini grants, there is no indirect cost on those. It's not allowed. And then the conflict of interest form that Katie mentioned is essentially just for us to make sure that our review panel is fair and just. And so this is just a simple, it's provided by USDA NIFA. It's the same form. So you just put all of your collaborators on here that you work with and that you're on grants with and stuff. So beyond the forms that you download, you are going to click over here on the left, application submission questions. You're going to enter your state. So every box has an edit answer and then a save button after you do it. So make sure you save each section as you go. So if you're doing your contracting state, make sure you save, now move on. Organization is going to be a free text answer. If you're cooperating with any states, you can enter them. The funding requested, you just enter it as a whole number with no commas, save. And then your summary it's going to sort of be a duplicate of what is in your proposal, just a brief summary. And that's what, when Katie mentioned, assume the reviewers only read the PDF, this is the part that we mean, because you do have to put the summary and the objectives into the grants management system, but it's also going to be duplicated in your proposal for the reviewer's sake, especially. The reason it's in grants management system is because this is what's going to be publicly searchable. So these kind of things, the summary, the objectives, that's stuff anyone can look up later if you get funded. The commodities, practices, and benefits and impacts, they are required questions. You might not have an answer for them, and that's okay. But in general, they are drop downs, or I guess lists. So if you're working with pest management, you can say what kind of pest management. If you're working with animal production, there's a lot of options. It's a really, really long list. It's pretty extensive. So whatever your grant, your IPM work is on, that's where you're going to enter the practices. And then what benefit and impact do those practices have, or does your project have, is the next question. And then if there's any scientific names, you can enter them. That's sort of more for the search also. And then as I go on, I hit next section is what the button I hit at the bottom. And this brings you to your proposal upload. The forms are in here also to download. There's kind of links everywhere. They're in the RFA, they're in grants management system. So you should be able to find the downloadable forms. And then when you're ready, so this table is just like a double check for you. Do you have everything together? Make sure it's in this order, save it as one PDF. And then you're going to hit the upload button and upload your PDF here and save it. You can always go back and not submit until you're ready. So like right now, I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, well, I'm not ready yet. So I'm just going to leave this window, and it's still sitting right here for me to come back and edit later. So that's the grants management system. If you have any trouble with it, just email us. We can reach out to the people who run the system and see if there's problems. If you make one and you mess something up and you want to redact it or anything, let us know. Like if you accidentally submit it, we can delete things out and whatever you need. So like you can see right now, I have 4 active proposals that are all my test ones that I've been working on, and I can go into any of them at any time. From the fellowships, oh, that's the grant one. The fellowships RFA, there is a link. I'm gonna scroll slowly so you guys don't get nauseous. There's a link on the second page. That's the DEIA fellowship submission. So we use a program called Smartsheet, and it will open up this form for you. And every field with the red asterisk is required. The reason for the fellowships that we need your home address is that the fellowships are going to be sent out as a stipend check. So we will actually send the check right to the fellowship awardees. So we just need a little bit of personal information for that. If you are selected, we will also send you a tax form from Iowa State. We have tax forms for US citizens, and we have tax forms for those with green cards or foreign nationals. So don't worry about those things. We'll get that taken care of if you're selected. If your field of study or major, if you're not a student and you're a faculty member, you can just put your department there. And then supervisor or department head, that would be, whether you're a student or a faculty member. And then the application upload goes right here. It should be in one document if you want to, and this actually can accept multiple documents. So, if you for some reason give us 2 documents, we're not gonna punish you for that. It's fine. We'd like it in one compiled PDF, but it's okay. We're pretty laid back with this kind of stuff. So I don't want people to get hung up on certain wording or certain rules. We can always fix things, and also always reach out if you have questions. The mini grants are going to be the same submission process as that. There's a link on the second page of the RFA that also brings up a Smartsheet form. It's the same kind of idea. We just want to know your your project title, your name, the lead name. If you have co-PIs for the mini grant, they'll just be in your proposal. Your email, your institution, how much you're looking for funding, and then your application upload. So they're pretty simple forms. Again, if you have any issues, and with both of these forms, I have a little thing here we do recommend checking the box right here, this one that says, send me a copy of my responses. It's on both of these forms. Every great once in a while, 1 out of 1,000 times, we'll have one that doesn't come in, and there's a glitch somewhere. It could be someone's web browser, the internet, whatever happens, and they'll say, I submitted it, and we don't get it. So please check that box. If you don't get a copy of your own submission, and make sure you check like your spam or junk folder in your email, please let us know, and we'll let you know if we see it on our end. It is an automated process, so it could go to your junk folder. But when you click the send me a copy of my responses box, it'll ask you for your email address again, even though you put it in one of the fields, it'll just ask for it again. So just make sure you get that confirmation email from us. So those are the 3 submission, I guess 2 submission systems for all 3 RFAs. So if you guys have any questions about those, just let me know. And I'll hand it back over to Katie and Laura.
Anything else to add, Laura?
No, I'll just kind of reiterate what Kelsey said is like, please reach out. I think all 3 of us, like, and don't worry, we just are in contact. I mean, send an email to Katie, and if she doesn't know, she passes it on. So we definitely don't want kind of I know, like, doing these forms and things like that, sometimes we're like, and you're like, if you don't know what it means, or the indirect costs, or does my institution, I'm a private individual, do I, like, just please ask. And sometimes we don't know the answer often, but we get in touch with people who can help.